Good afternoon, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here. So, I'm Natalie Keatley. I work for an organization called Avaya, and many of you have probably got Avaya infrastructure running in your contact centers and across your organizations today. I'm not really here to talk about Avaya. I'm here to talk about how work is changing and the implications that that has on the organization overall. Very specifically, the impact that that has on the organization when it comes to the customer experience. So I'm going to be taking you through a view into the back-to-front office. The back-to-front office that serves the customer experience. Now, we've been listening today endlessly to the fact that the world has changed. Organizations have changed, consumers have changed, and the focus has moved from just providing products and services as the way of differentiating the organization into something much more intangible, much more difficult to emulate, and far harder to compete on. And that is experience. Experience for customers, experience for employees, experience for suppliers, experience for investors. I don't need to tell you the importance of differentiating your organization on the experience because you live it every single day. Summed up very nicely by the fact that there's that famous quote that customers may forget what you said, they may forget what you did, but they will absolutely never forget how you made them feel. Because the experience is about feeling. The experience is about how somebody engages with your organization, how they feel about it, what they think of when they look to your brand. And that has fundamentally changed the way in which most organizations need to look at their business model, the way they need to look at their employees, their processes. And there's no place in the organization that has felt this more than the contact center. Why? Because we're in a world where we're increasingly digital. We've said it many times before today. In some cases, you may not have a human interaction with an organization because everything's been automated. Everything's available in self-service over an app, supported through an AI algorithm, through a virtual assistant. But actually, what we've found is that interactions are still absolutely critical. Human interactions are absolutely critical, particularly when the transaction or the interaction is emotional or when it's complex. And if things can't be handled in self-service, it's the complex issues that come into the organization to be resolved by the people in the organization. So, your average contact center agent is now dealing with far more complex queries than they did 10 years ago. Not only that, but they also have to become specialists in just about everything there is in the organization. Because when those issues are complex, you have customers who want issues resolved now. They've already done a fair amount of work themselves, so when they come into the organization, they're looking for an expert. Now, I don't know about you, but the average contact center that we have experience with suffers from attrition. It is one of the biggest problems contact centers are faced with every single day. It takes months to get the agents proficient. They just get them proficient, and all of a sudden, they've got the next draft coming through that have to go through the same cycle. The impact on that on the organization is huge. It's huge on the experience of the agents as well. Because now you have agents who are constantly having to pick up for other people, constantly getting the difficult questions because so-and-so's new and doesn't know how to answer the question. So it's got a massive implication, and we see attrition rates soaring. In fact, one of the biggest things in contact centers today is mental health first aiders. Why? Because the contact center is a pretty difficult place to work. It's a pretty stressful place to work. So, being able to ensure that you can deliver the right kind of customer experience actually has as much to do with the technology and the processes and the self-service capabilities as it does with the individuals who are actually delivering that customer experience in the organization. So, we think that the back office is absolutely critical to the customer experience. Why? Because actually, the interaction doesn't often start, and it certainly doesn't end in the contact center. And the contact center is just one part of the overall organization that has an impact on the experience that the customer gets. The back office is absolutely essential. It is no good if you can let your customers go in and purchase something from your organization at the click of a button. If it takes days to arrive, and when it's arrived, it's wrong, or it's broken, or you don't know how to use it. In fact, customers actually say that the third biggest issue, or the third biggest thing that they use to evaluate organizations on when it comes to making a purchasing decision, is timely delivery. And the second biggest contributor to satisfaction, or in most cases, dissatisfaction, is delays and errors in the back office. Absolutely critical. Now, here's the problem. Every organization here has probably got a customer experience initiative underway, right? You're all looking at your customer experience. The chances are, when you're looking at your customer experience, you're looking at the front office processes, people, and applications. Very few organizations are actually looking at the back office. Some research we did with the analyst firm IDC showed that less than a third of organizations felt that they were doing a good job of integrating fulfillment and delivery with the customer experience. That's a big gap. Not only that, but the back office, in many cases, operates completely differently to the front office. In many cases, the back office isn't even measured to the same metrics that the front office is measured on. They're not aware of it, it's not visible, nobody's managing it, it's not automated, nobody's been alerted when the back office fails to deliver. So there is a huge gap in most organizations today. Now, for us, this is absolutely essential if organizations are actually going to be able to operate in this changing world of work. Because the impact of not aligning the back office to the front office is massive across the whole organization. First of all, on your customers. Your customers are going to experience delays. Without a shadow of a doubt, if the front office doesn't have the answers to the questions that they need, or the back office isn't delivering to the SLAs that have been promised by the front office, customers are going to experience delays, and they're going to have to interact with the organization multiple times just to get one transaction processed. For the agent, they bear the brunt of the customer frustration. They're the ones at the coalface. Increasingly, what we're seeing is when your contact center becomes, in many cases, the only face of your organization, you want that to be a good face. And actually, what you want your agents to do is to work on the people skills, on the soft skills, on the relationship management skills. That's really hard to do when you've got irate customers. And the back office, completely misaligned from everything else. It's not fun for the back office to have things thrown over the fence to them with very little context, very little background, very little understanding of what's required. So, that impacts on a number of things: first contact resolution, customer satisfaction, operational costs, and very importantly, the employee experience. So how do you go about enabling the front to back office? I'm going to take you through just a few things that you can do in your organizations really, really simply, just to get this started. Because actually, one of the things that we've seen with most organizations is when they look at their customer experience, and they look at the customer-facing functions, you will find that the technologies, the applications, the resources are siloed, in many cases, from the rest of the organization. But actually, there's a wealth of experience in the contact center that could be applied into the back office really, really easily and should be getting applied. There's a wealth of technologies that we've been using in our customer-facing functions that could make a huge impact on the back office. So let me just take you through what those are, starting with the whole concept of pervasive collaboration. And David spoke about this. One of the things that organizations need to do, both for their customers and internally, is to ensure that collaboration is easy and effortless. And most important, it's connected. It doesn't matter what the interaction is, what the transaction is, what the device is, what the channel is, who needs to solve this. Everything needs to be connected. And collaboration and communication run through the core of that. So first of all, simplifying the tools that your organization uses to communicate. In the contact center, the chances are that what they're using to manage the interactions with customers is going to be different to the in-house communication and collaboration systems that are used, which means you're adding just one more layer of complexity, one more application, one more screen to open for your agents to go and find someone in the back office. Oh, and by the way, that's assuming they even know who to find in the back office. Because one of the big problems is organizations are large, and people do funny things like go on holiday. So when Betty in billing isn't available, does your contact center agent know who the next best person is? Do they actually know who the experts are in the organization? And then if they do know, are they then able to find out whether those individuals are available? Do they know their context and their presence? Because there's nothing worse than having a customer waiting for an answer and the agent running around trying to find someone who might be available, who could be brought into the interaction. So the first thing is pervasive collaboration, a converged communication solution across your front and your back office. Secondly, and this is really simple, work assignment. We do such a fantastic job of making sure we can match people to customers when it's a customer services function, but what happens when that piece of work has to go somewhere else in the organization? We don't necessarily apply the same level of discipline in terms of how we route that work and how we support that work with the relevant context so that whoever's getting it knows what they should be working towards. So applying exactly the same rules that you do in your contact center to manage work that goes elsewhere in the organization is critical. Thirdly, case management. In many cases, contact centers are very much about understanding an issue and then trying to get that issue resolved by working with lots of different parts of the organization across multiple functions. Information is being collected and work is being managed. Case management systems, which sit in the back office, ticket management systems that sit in the back office and have no visibility for the contact center agents, are absolutely out of the question in today's day and age, because those ticket systems, those case management systems, go across multiple processes and multiple organization functions. How much easier is it for your contact center agent to be able to see that a particular item is at a warehouse in your case management system than having to track someone in the warehouse to find out what the status of that item is? So 3 really simple things you can do around collaboration. Secondly, it's about AI everywhere, because AI is all about providing an intuitive experience. And by intuitive, we mean easy, proactive. It just needs to happen. Virtual assistants and bots are so powerful, but they're just as powerful in supporting employees in the front and back offices as they are supporting customers in customer-facing self-service interactions. So if there's one thing that you do when you're looking at how you use virtual assistants, think about how you can use them for your employees. Think about how you can use virtual assistants to support your agents, and to support your back office staff supporting customer interactions. Because that will make a huge difference to how they work. It'll make a huge difference to the work that they're doing. And most importantly, you're training your bots, because your bots are no different to somebody sitting in your contact center. They need to be managed, they need to be trained, they need to be nurtured. The best way to do that is keep them involved in every single customer interaction, not just at the front end, but through the whole thing. Secondly, sentiment and real-time analytics. This is probably one of the most critical areas, because in most instances in the contact center, when something goes wrong, the place in the business that is going to feel it most and know about it is the contact center. But actually, being able to do something about that is quite tricky. When analytics comes to the fore, what analytics is doing is helping to identify when something's going wrong and bringing the support that the agents need to the agents themselves, as opposed to having the agents go to look for the information that they need. So you know when agents say, I'm sorry, my system's running slow? It's not. It's because they're jumping across multiple applications to try and find the information that they need. So using things like sentiment to bring the supervisor into an interaction that's going horribly wrong with the customer is far more helpful than leaving that agent to dabble around, trying to sort it out, and then having an irate customer at the end of the day. And the third piece here is robotic process automation. I cannot stress this one enough. Using a digital workforce to do all the things that we don't want our agents doing and that we don't want the back office having to do. Because at the end of the day, we're human, we're prone to errors. When we have to rekey information, that's wasting valuable time. When agents have to run around and ask people or get access to information from different places, it's a waste of time. So using robotic process automation to do that on their behalf absolutely brings value, not just to the agent, but to the customer. So AI everywhere for an intuitive experience, including the back office, is critical. Finally, it's about insights. So your contact center is a goldmine of information, absolute goldmine of information. But how much of that information is being shared with the back office? How much information is actually being used to change the processes, the procedures, the metrics, the people behaviors in the back office? All of it has value to the organization, because when things go wrong, they come to the contact center. So look at things like speech analytics, desktop and process analytics, text analytics. These are key areas that will tell you the very processes that aren't working. Because if you want to know what's not working in your business, speak to an angry customer. It's the best place to find out where your processes are falling down and what you need to do to enhance that experience across the entire customer journey. Thirdly, it's about dashboards. Most back offices aren't aligned to the front office, not because they don't want to be, but because they just don't have visibility into what the front office is doing. They get measured differently, they get rewarded differently, they get trained differently. So providing visibility across the entire customer journey to everyone in the organization is hugely valuable, and it'll bridge that gap. And finally, that means the customer journey too. If you're measuring your customer journey today, I would strongly encourage you to ask whether you're tracking the back office interactions that support that customer journey. The chances are you're tracking the journey across every single omni-channel device and channel of communication out there, but they're all the front end. They're not in the back end. And if you don't have visibility of the customer journey, and if you're not tracking what is happening in the customer journey when it goes beyond the contact center, you're not delivering the customer experience. And you're making it very, very difficult for your back office to be brought into a customer interaction seamlessly. So, Where do you start? Because that's always one of the big things, is looking at how you bring unified communications and contact center capabilities together is probably one of the hardest things to do. Here's an example of an organization that we worked with, Croatian Telecom, who did something very simple, something that absolutely, I would hazard a guess, every single customer in this room could do within your organization today. Take your front office routing and apply it to your back office. Croatian Telecom had done a massive customer experience transformation. So they had looked across the entire contact center, they had opened up new channels, they had automated, they had applied AI. And what they were finding was that they were still not meeting the customer metrics that they wanted to. And what they realized was that the majority of the work that was coming into their contact center, was work that needed to go elsewhere. It was a customer phoning up to say, my broadband's slow at the moment, can you help me? And that would need to go to someone in engineering who would do some troubleshooting, run some diagnostics, do whatever. But the minute that that ticket was raised and handed over to the back office, it disappeared. So the guys in the contact center had no visibility of where it had gone. The guys in the back office literally just got a queue of stuff, and they could cherry pick. So they would go, not going to deal with that, it looks hard, or no, 15 minutes to lunch, not going to take that one. So the hard stuff was being left. People were cherry picking the stuff that they wanted to do, and at the end of the day, customers were phoning into the contact center. So their traffic rates were still sky high in the contact center, and then the agents were running around trying to figure out who had information and visibility of where this was in the process. They did one very simple thing. They took their routing, their work assignment that they use in the front office, applied it to the back office. Now all of a sudden, full visibility of what goes on. They can send the right work to the right people. They can measure it. And even better than that, when it starts to go wrong, they can alert a supervisor and they can bump it up in the queue so that it now takes a higher priority. Completely changed their customer experience. They are now seeing the customer experience metrics that they were expecting from their CX initiative. More importantly, it's made the life of the average contact center agent infinitely easier, much better, and now they can focus on the soft skills, on the personal skills, on the skills that really matter in human interactions. So, the technology is there. The technology is there today for you to go and use to bring your back office closer into your customer journey and to infuse some of that best practice, some of the technologies that we've used in the contact center for years into your back office. That will, without a doubt, have an impact on your organization and the value that it delivers to customers and to its people. However, this is where it gets tricky, because the impact on the culture is enormous. How many specialists in your organization would want to be told that they are now part of the contact center or customer services function? How many specialists or knowledge workers or office workers in your organization would now like to be told that they're an extension of a customer service agent? The impact is huge. Because what you're now doing is you're starting to say, something that I can measure very tangibly in terms of my customer experience is now something that I'm going to try and measure in my back office. And now you're bringing about discipline, which is incredibly difficult for people to deal with. So your biggest challenge here isn't going to be the technology, and Avaya can help you with any of those technologies that you want to apply, whether it's in your front office, your back office, or across the two. Your biggest challenge is going to be the cultural elements associated with it, which means you maybe need to think differently. We've been doing a lot of work with organizations recently looking at how they need to change the face of the contact center and the evolving role of the contact center environment and agent. And actually, what we're seeing is that contact center agents are no longer just a place to go and get some questions answered. they become fundamental to driving the relationship and the revenue within your organization. And if they are the only face of your brand, what they do is going to determine whether your customers become fans or leave. So it's absolutely critical. We've got organizations at the moment who are looking at how they can make the contact center a career aspiration instead of a starting point in a career, which is what it is for most organizations. They're looking at how they can use their contact center as advisors to the business, because what happens in the contact center impacts everywhere. So they've got teams of contact center agents spending half of their time working in sprints to try and resolve some of the problems that they are coming up against in their day-to-day interactions with customers. And guess what? Those issues impact not just the contact center, but everybody. And now they've got their contact center agents going out to work with the rest of the business to help them drive some of these changes. So much so, they moved their contact center into the reception of the business, of their head office. When you walk through the doors, the first thing you see is the contact center, because they believe it is the heart of everything they do. And if you ever wonder whether that's true or not, hopefully this quote will ensure that you realize that it is absolutely worth it in terms of bringing your front and back office together, because every single employee in the business has an impact, whether directly or indirectly, on the customer experience. And so please, if you want to talk about any of the technologies, we're more than happy to work with you on that. If you want to hear about what other organizations have done to overcome some of these cultural changes, more than happy to talk about that. But whatever you do today, please, if there's one thing that you do, find one small thing that you can do to bring your back office closer into your front office. Thank you very much.